said that he does believe a horrendous number of lives has been lost in the course of this tragedy, but he did not want to wager any sort of speculation on what the final toll would be. At least one witness told us that in the moments before the buildings collapsed, he saw people leaping to try to save their own lives from the Trade Center towers. Back in Washington, we get a closer look at what occurred at the Pentagon. What was left, the great flames in the gaping hole of the Pentagon, apparently left by that hijacked plane that crashed into the Department of Defense. Again, we're told this is the Army side of the building of the Pentagon building, which of course has 5 sides. Now, commercial aircraft, we also know, has crashed in Shanksville, Pennsylvania. That is southeast of Pittsburgh, about 80 miles southeast of Pittsburgh along I-76. The report says that just before the crash, a passenger who was on board telephoned 911 saying that the plane had been hijacked and trying to get help. Now that would explain the crash there for all 4 planes that have been confirmed as being hijacked over U.S. skies today. Again, 2 crashing into the World Trade Center towers, 1 into the Pentagon, and this last one, you see the debris of it there in the agricultural area, the farming areas, the rolling hills of Pennsylvania. I want to now try to show you some live pictures now of Lower Manhattan at this hour. Again, you still see a thick plume of smoke there. Aaron Brown standing by again in his vantage point on a rooftop in New York City now. Aaron, what are you seeing?
Joey, thank you. We can see as
Pentagon as the government itself was brought under attack. Now, we want to show you in sequence what happened this morning at the World Trade Centers. These buildings at the tip of Manhattan, first an aircraft, and that is the plane, comes in and hits a World Trade Center building. This was the second hit, if you will, I believe. Then after the 2 planes, one hit one tower, then another hit another tower. You see the plane went deep into the building, and indeed one witness said it almost came out the other side. That was a quote. Then, incredibly, unbelievably, almost inconceivably, one of the huge twin towers began to collapse from the top, quickly cascading down, completely, totally destroyed. A rain of steel and concrete. Other buildings around began to collapse. A horrific sight. And then, as before that could even be absorbed as a fact, the second tower began to collapse. Those events between just before 9 a.m. Eastern Time this morning and around 10 a.m. Eastern Time this morning. And then another plane crashed into a helipad near the Pentagon and put part of the Pentagon in Washington, the U.S. Defense Department headquarters, in flames and filled with smoke. The Defense Department later confirmed there had been some fatalities. They did not say how many, and there were injuries at this place. Then there was a plane crash, apparently, reportedly and supposedly a crashed plane in western Pennsylvania. And Russ Mitchell's been trying to get the facts on that. Russ?
That's right, Dan. United Airlines says Flight 93, which was a Boeing 757, left Newark, New Jersey at 8:01 this morning Eastern Time, was headed for San Francisco with 38 passengers, 2 pilots, and 5 flight attendants. United Airlines has confirmed that plane did crash about 80 miles from Pittsburgh. There are no survivors, according to United, at this time.
Russ Mitchell. And then there is the case of a plane is believed to have crashed in the area of the presidential retreat at Camp David, Maryland. But quite frankly, the facts on that remain in some doubt. Now, we're told that President Bush has just landed at Moffett Air Force Base in Nebraska. Remember, the president started the day in Florida. He was on a out of Washington trip to Florida. Then he turned up at Barksdale Air Force Base outside Shreveport, Louisiana, made his second statement of the day. Now, we're told Moffett Air Force Base in Nebraska. Why would he go there? Well, for one thing, the DEFCOM planes are headquartered at this place in Moffett Air Force Base, we're told, and that is that there are special aircraft which, in case of, say, a nuclear attack or some other national emergency, that the president could could board one of those aircrafts. They have special facilities in case of a national emergency. Now, I want to emphasize the President's been traveling in Air Force One, which has very sophisticated equipment, but is not, in fact, a so-called DEFCON plane. That's a special aircraft. We don't know that President Bush is boarding one of these DEFCON planes. We're told what we know, and all we know is that he went from Barksdale Air Force Base in Shreveport to Moffett Air Force Base in Nebraska, and he's now receiving what's called as an up-to-date briefing at the air base in Nebraska. Where he intends to go after this, if anywhere today, is unknown. We'll try to keep you posted as we go along on the President's movements, but a decision was made. He said first when he was in Florida, he said he was going back to Washington. But a decision was made that he was not going to do that. It was unannounced, as probably should not have been. He wound up in Barksdale Air Force Base, as I say, and now is at Moffett Air Force Base in Nebraska, where it said that he's getting a briefing. Let me pause and say that I've made a mistake here. The responsibility is mine and the blame is mine. It is Offutt Air Force Base in Nebraska, not Moffett. Offutt Air Force Base in Nebraska. So the situation at this hour, let's review. The casualties are many. There are many dead, and New York hospitals are overflowing with the wounded from the collapse, the twin collapse of the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center. There have been some fatalities, the number unknown, at the Pentagon when an aircraft was crashed into the Pentagon. American commercial airlines say that at least 4 planes were hijacked this morning as part of what appears to be a concerted effort at terrorism. American Airlines says 2 of its